Deon Jackson. He tied Ramondre Stevenson, 21.3 fantasy points in half PPR scoring. But this was a different type of game. Like Deon Jackson and Ramondre Stevenson achieved their fantasy points in two different ways. Ramondre had 19 rush attempts, 76 yards, 2 rush touchdowns, and 4 receptions for 15 yards. Deon Jackson, on the other hand, was a safety valve for Matt Ryan, and that's probably why Matt Ryan was able to rack up larger yards down the field too, is because he was able to feel that rhythm and get in a groove for throwing the ball short, knowing where his outlet guy is, but also trusting Michael Pittman further down the field. And Deon Jackson, only 12 attempts, 42 rushing yards. He did have a rushing touchdown, but what separated Deon Jackson is the targets and the receptions. He leads all running backs in week 6 with 10 targets, leads all running backs with 10 receptions. And the next closest, 9 targets for Alvin Kamara, 7 receptions for Christian McCaffrey. And on the week, Deon Jackson, second among running backs with receiving yards of 79. So he just put it all together. This was a complete game. I put out 2 different videos about Deon Jackson, and I thought that Deon Jackson would be like a high-end running back 3, maybe a low-end running back 2. I ended up ranking him as such. And I don't think there are very many other fantasy analysts who ranked him, fantasy pros. I don't think many other fantasy analysts like ranked Deon Jackson much higher than I did. Like looking at the rankings, for half PPR, right? He was the consensus running back 29, which was about where I had him. And the highest that any ranker had him was running back 14. I had him at running back 28, so I was slightly above consensus on Deon Jackson, which is what I said. I said high-end running back 3, low-end running back 2, and that's where I landed is running back 28. He finishes as the running back 1 going into Sunday Night Football, and I don't think that there's a running back who's going to get up to 23 fantasy points just based on what I'm looking at here on the Sleeper app. I just don't see, in this Eagles-Dallas game. Yeah, Elliott's at 12, Sanders is at 12, Pollard's at 6. So we're not close for any other running backs to be within striking range. Looking at maybe it's going to be Austin Eckler. He's the only one really I think that has a chance in the Monday night game to get to the 23 or more fantasy points. But now we've seen, once again, a ceiling for Deon Jackson. We knew he was going to get the majority of carries and play the majority of snaps. We saw that in week 5. So week 6, this was hyper usage, though. Nyheim Hines plus Jonathan Taylor role, double-digit carries, double-digit targets. Deon Jackson finishing as the running back 1. As long as both of them are out, Deon Jackson, I think, has established himself as a back-end running back 1, I think is how we should treat him if he's the starter. And as a side note, I think this completely ruins Christian McCaffrey's trade value, right? If you can get a third-string running back to score a touchdown and catch 10 passes in a game to keep your offense moving, like, why would you pay that much for Christian McCaffrey? Where would you? It wouldn't make sense to trade like a first or 2 firsts for Christian McCaffrey plus his contract. So just as an aside, I think Deon Jackson kind of ruined Christian McCaffrey's trade market here.